Guys, welcome to the Flow In, Flow Out podcast. My name is Samnang. I'm the host of the podcast, and I'm the head coach at Peak Performance Academy. And we got a special guest here. His name is it's just Wayne. Wayne Two. Wayne Too Nice. But Wayne is here. He's a friend of mine. He is a common friend. If you guys watch the podcast or follow the podcast, we have Philip Wilkerson as a mutual friend, and Wayne and I have just been friends online, and we've just been in contact just recently since this year, since I've been putting out more content and stuff. And we had a conversation earlier this year about personal development, how we're doing in life, and it was the first time we hopped on a call. So it was very, after me going through my shitstorm of life and everything, I wanted to reach out and get in touch with like new friends and create new networks. And Wayne was one of those gentlemen that showed up, and I'm glad he's here and we connected and everything. Our conversation went great the first time, but part of the Flow In Flow Out podcast is just having people that enjoy and resonate with the message that we have, and our message is to elevate the collective vibrations, right? To kind of uplift each other, help each other out during times like this that's where we start to lose connection and everything, trying to find a way and showcase a way of how to stay connected with people using social media and podcasting. So it's a fun creative outlet for me, and that's my why. And I'm gonna hand it over to my man Wayne Two here, and he could tell me why he's here and what he likes about the podcast or whatever you want to tell us. So go ahead, my brother.
Thanks, bro. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I think what resonated to me most of all is like you are such an outwardly person that puts yourself out there, and you you strive hard to like just be the best you can. And me, I'm not a very outwardly person. I don't like to let a lot of people in, but what resonated is the fact that like I expect a lot of my out of myself, like physically, family at home, work wise. And so, this regiment that you've shared with the world and with the podcast, I think was like, I respect that. I wouldn't
Yeah.
do it. I wouldn't put it all out there, but there's so many parallels to the journey that we're both on. There's separate journeys, but we both get after it. So that's why I'm here, and I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, man, that was a well thought out response and everything. But yeah, I'm glad to have you here. It's felt like a brother to another brother. For me, it's like after putting out my message, and you say, like people say it resonates and everything, and there's like parallel universes. Like when I've gone through like life, like you're what 40, I'm 38 years old, like to be honest, I felt like I've gone through a lot of life. That's why I have this podcast where I just want to share some insight to help people as well too. Like times are they're never easy. It's like the type of philosophy that we have to like use. It's like it's gonna be a grind. It's gonna be a hard life. I've always understood that it was going to be a hard life. So that's why I do like I don't know why how the universe chose me or like to have this type of like consciousness to be able to share this knowledge and have this like memory to be able to share like these stories and stuff. But I was gifted with it, and I was like, well, I had to do something to share this message and spread this message because if messages resonate, they run through your head just like my like messages run through my head all the time because I hear stories, I listen to stories, and then I'm running stories in my head as well too. So this podcast, I think it feels a little bit like the hero's journey where he's coming back. You know, he's telling his story. He's inspiring his friends. I feel. I know I'm not gonna feel unstoppable all the time, but I was like, it's a time to create. So it's a time to, bring on people and inspire other people to do. And it
If
doesn't
it's
have to be similar work, but in a work where it gives back to the community.
Yeah, if it's calling to you, you have to follow it. I have always been a really shy person, I think, but I think there are certain themes that have occurred in my life over and over again. And one thing that I've learned is I don't like regret.
Yeah.
And so when I think about, oh, why didn't I do that when I was younger? Or why didn't I spend more time with that, doing that? Like, those are the things that haunt me. And
Yeah.
so I try to now be very conscious of what are my burning goals and not to let them slip. So 10, 20 years from now, or when I look back at my life, I don't regret it. But I think you said something earlier that was particularly interesting. And there's this quote, it's like, tough times create strong men or strong
Yeah.
people, right? I don't like to think it's just specific to men, but I think our backgrounds, probably just being immigrant families, probably shaped that a little bit, but everybody's got that calling inside them, I think. And so being able to explore it and follow it is pretty, is the hero's
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah. The Asian background, I've talked to that. I've had some, like us being like Asian. Um, it, to be honest, like I don't know if anybody knows me, like, but I hate fucking complaining. I hate hearing complaining from myself. I hate hearing people complain. So it's like something that's just like instilled in me. I don't know. I don't know if it's an Asian thing or just like a foreign thing. But when you start hearing people complain, you're just like, "What's wrong with you?" Because when I hear it, it's like what I hear is that you can't solve problems, you know, or you're expecting other people to kind of like solve the problem. So for me, it's like I've always been around people. Like if they start complaining, it's okay. Like we complain here, there, and stuff. But if it's constant complaining, I'm not gonna be around that type of person. You know, the
Yeah.
ungrateful, the
I,
complainer, the ones that aren't gonna do anything about their life and stuff. But
yeah.
it's the ones where like I like being around people that are solution, oriented, of service. Those type of people I want to be around. I could really figure. I could almost immediately, like if I hop on a call or like I see people, even the message it resonates because I'm sending out vibrations, with my voice and what I'm saying and stuff. And then the people that likes the message, they're coming or they want to hear it and stuff. So it's not anything that like I don't know
Yeah.
how to say it, but it's
Well, I,
it's a law, like the law of attraction and stuff. If you're creating something and you want people will hear it, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm very deeply spiritual now. That's the and very philosophical, but I do enjoy it.
I hear that. I think also in your adult years, like I love all my old friends from like high school and growing up in college, but now at this age, it's time
Different.
is so limited. You have to find your own tribe again. You're saying your tribe today is not the same one 5 or 10 years ago, and there's no love lost. But I mean, to your point, like having like-minded friends and a group of people that are positive, I think we all want that, right? And if
Yeah.
you're all in the same vibe, then it adds to life.
How do you like?
The-
I know you mentioned earlier like regret, and then like being around good people and stuff. For me, I've always tried to keep my vibrations high, so it's always felt like I could see who is like authentic or just kind of faking it a little bit. How do you kind of go about your life as being some 40 years old to not live with
oh
regret?
man, I look at every relationship and I have this belief. I think I got it from a Tim Ferriss podcast many, many years ago. But there's always three versions of yourself, right? There's
Mm. Yeah, I think I
who you
heard
think
this.
you are, who you think you are, who someone else thinks you are, and then who you really are. So if you imagine those three
Yeah.
circles there, I try to align all my relationships where all those circles overlap each other.
Mm.
Like
Mm.
we know our expectations of each other, we know our relationship, and the tighter or the more overlap of those circles are, the stronger the relationship. And
Yeah.
when you have two separate, circles of identity, you don't meet in the middle, right? And those are hard relationships to maintain, and those are the ones that kind of drop off. And so, if it's a authenticity thing, if it's a different philosophy on life, then we're probably not overlapping very much in our circles. So I don't
Yeah.
know what the technique is to suss it out, but if usually if I'm not enjoying the company, I'm or the conversation, it's I'm doing
Yeah,
something else instead.
you could tell. You could tell with the
Yeah,
conversation.
that's it.
If you're 30 years, 38 years old, 40 years old, you know what people's interests are. You know your interests, so you start to get like a taste. It's like
Yeah,
we're like old Asian dads. Like old Asian dads, like they like their particular shit. Like I like hot water. I like my
yeah,
rice, eggs, cucumbers.
bro. That's not
It's
old
the same
Asian.
shit I eat almost like every day, but I was like
Have you know what this stuff is? Like, it's not this particular brand, but like the oils. Uh,
ginseng.
it's not ginseng, but they're like
Alcohol,
mentholy oils and stuff. That
essential oils.
it's a strong, strong like spearmint or peppermint smell or something. And I remember my dad used to use this stuff all the time, and he'd like put under his nose for to refresh him, or he'd put it on his.
Aromatic, like aromatherapy, probably.
Yeah, yeah, and dude, it smells very herbal. It's not like cologne or anything, but that's one of those things where I'm like, I might be becoming an Asian dad, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Using the
Asian
same stuff
dad.
my dad did.
Well, you know how to cook,
I do. I do.
dude. So
Yeah.
telling dates that you know how to cook. Like put like for me, so I'm single. You're not you're not married, but I put like cooking, right? Dude,
Yeah.
it's like game over. And you got muscles.
Probably had another life, you know?
Game over. Like
Yeah.
I turned on like I wasn't having any luck with dating or anything, but it's funny. I went to go change my profile. Just I was like, I think I'm ready. I need a girlfriend. I've been grinding on doing my own
Yeah.
thing. And then I go and update the app, and I was real intentional. I was like, I'm kind of like, here's what I'm doing. Like, I literally, I was like, I'm doing a podcast and like changing my careers and shit. And what did I say? I don't know exactly what I said, but I updated my profile and literally like, ding, 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 like. And I've never used the app and never found success in it, but I think the success came was from me just being honest and authentic about what I'm doing or where I'm at and stuff. I was like, yeah, I've been to some like therapy and shadow work and divorce and stuff. And but I said, I'm fucking working on it. Right? I'm working on it. I mean, look, everybody sees me working on it like, with the podcast and stuff. And I want it to be as authentic as possible. You know, just be real. And I've always been real, so um, it gives permission to be for people to see what authenticity, I guess, looks like. I'm not saying like people aren't being authentic, but I think it's like a little bit more of when we talk about those circles and stuff. I think it's really understanding like the ego, you know, that identity, that how we relate into with other people, with ourself, and with like, the creator or something like that. You know, whatever you believe in, but like we're all different people at different times and stuff. But how do you know that the real version, right? It's hard.
I
It's
think
something to think about.
that it's a constant. I was just telling my nephew the same thing because he just graduated. Actually, number two in his class. He's a really smart kid. I'm really proud of him. He You always have to stay grounded, and I think you never have it figured out, and it's not. It, it's only for a short. If you have it figured out, it's only for a short period of time, and if it's longer than that, you probably don't have it figured out. I guess
Yeah,
my point is, you always have to realign yourself, like because you get. I mean, we're all in our own heads, and we're always trying to rationalize situations, whether it was a good or bad interaction or something that occurred. Um, and so just having to realign yourself and ask yourself, like, all right, well, what's the other point of view, and how could this have been perceived,
yeah,
or whatever it is, right? And so you can view yourself almost like in the third person to say, am I coming off authentic? Am I like, what's my
yeah.
how what's
That's
the
that's hard to find right now. I think that's where a lot like we're in the age of like I'm trying to figure myself. Like, are you reading any like philosophy? Like some folks like read Carl Jung. Carl Jung's been real
I've
popular.
I'm in a reading lull, or a study lull. I am reading a book for work. I'm in an area called like customer success. I'm a program architect, and
Yeah,
it's a relatively new discipline in the world of like careers, like last 20 years or so.
Uh-huh.
And the one that I'm reading now is Chief Customer Officer Playbook. And it was not meant to be like a philosophy or self help book, but it was very
Okay, that's
reaffirming. In the, yeah, and I take work situations because, to be honest, like for me, my what we spend so much time working, right? And a
yeah,
lot of my work revolves around having to work with people and customers and dealing with friction.
yeah,
So it's I've found it to be reassuring and and carry over into personal life, like addressing friction, being
yeah,
transparent, right, and being.
yeah,
I think there's I don't know if this is like cultural or not, but being eager to help and like I'm kind of in the camp that, and my mom taught me this is you're not really above any job, right? If the floors need swept, you sweep them.
yeah,
If you have to wash the dishes, you wash the dishes. And she's always taught me to be you do what it takes, right? And then be resourceful. Like going
yeah,
back on the complaining piece, but my point is like I'm seeing all how all these things can carry in between work life and personal life, and my strongest relationships at work are when I'm transparent and when I'm
yeah,
when I just deal with the friction and don't let this stuff fester.
yeah.
So
I mean, that's really good insight. I think being upfront about things, transparent, and that's why I try to be honest about things and authentic about things because I don't want to go back and like regret that I lied or something. I don't.
to be honest, that's why I stopped drinking. Is
It's like to be. I mean, like I'd rather like say something fucked up and be like that was like honest at the time, but then instead of lying, like I don't like lying. Like it hurts myself to lie, and and part of like my personal development, I lie to myself in like the wrong the wrong way, or I don't know if it's the wrong way or the right way, but the way that is good for me, intuitive to me. Like
Mhm.
since I've been doing a like discipline and bodybuilding and like physical fitness and studying and stuff, it's like intuitive to me. All that stuff was me. It wasn't because somebody told me to do it. Right? It was all like intuition and stuff. And that's for me is like how I guess
Here,
got my identity doing
here's a
that.
question: do you lie to tell people what they want to hear, or do you just tell them straight out?
No, the only time I lie, I don't lie, I exaggerate. Because I'm a salesman.
Yeah,
I exaggerate a lot, but I gotta tell a good story, But
that's
I
good.
don't like, if somebody asks me, like, uh, uh, any honest question, like anything, like, I don't know, I've like been pretty honest and stuff. If somebody
Yeah.
wants to ask, it's like, I don't really like, I've gone to therapy and stuff. It's like, and I've wrote all my thoughts down. I could say, like, if I was ever angry and if I wanted to like hurt somebody, yeah, I've had that thought. Right? I think those are all real thoughts. Did I want to hurt myself? Yeah. You know, like those are all real thoughts. I think other people have thought it, but if that goes unprocessed, it could be really dangerous. Right? That's why we talk. There's a lot of like I guess there's a resurgence of like stoicism. Like stoicism is to be able to like take care of that kind of stuff. Like if there's like thoughts that are like angry and they're not processed, it goes into something else.
It
So that,
festers
yeah, it festers, and
and
if it festers,
grows.
it festers, festers, it changes into something. We would start like to study the body and stuff. It's like, and we start to study like quantum physics. Like a thought is a start of something. I think I've been listening to a gentleman named Billy Carson from Forbidden Knowledge.
Oh, I love that.
I love it. He's like
I love
forbidden knowledge, Billy Carson. But like, dude, like when he talks, it's like with straight conviction. You know that he done
it.
his work, he done his research, and he points things out. And he's like, if you don't believe me, go research it. You
Yep.
can see it's backed up, right? And he's
I love it and I hate it. I'll be honest. For people that don't know Billy Carson, he's like a forefront voice in ancient civilizations, in
yeah,
like dimensions, and
it's
you know
interesting.
strongly believes of ancient technologies and aliens and where we've come from. But that what I love and hate about him is he is so confident in how he presents it. It's like it's like you said it like you were there, but you weren't there. You know what I mean? It's like it's a fine line because of that conviction that he has, and I'm like, bro, you just told that story like like you were present for that moment. But I'm bought in because I it's
Well, here,
it's a passion topic for me right now. I'll put it that way.
that is a good topic. Okay, so I made a quantum leap. I made a worldview shift. So that's probably the difference. When I hear him and you and other people hear him, it might be different. Because sometimes when people hear me and I speak a different, like it almost sounds like we're speaking a different language when you make it a little switch.
Yeah.
So we were in one of the podcasts we were talking about the pineal gland. So the pineal gland is the one like I was telling you about earlier in the podcast. You unlock the Wim Hof, or you do it by doing the Wim Hof method. It shoots up and it basically enlightens you. You know that little it's called the pineal gland. And Billy Carson talks about the pineal gland, the eye of Horus. It pops open, right? So it's like an antenna that changes, and your neurons and everything become connected, and like everything, like I read, becomes you actually become the information. You know what I'm saying? So everything that Billy has read, I'm sure he had a spiritual awakening. Basically, opened up his pineal gland, but he's been reading since he said he was reading textbooks at like 3 years old. So his consciousness or anything is like fucking amazing, like
Wait,
crazy, right?
what spiritual awakening did you have? Because I have one I can share.
Yeah. Well, my spiritual awakening, I've had like two, but the last major one was around August or of last year. I was going through a lot of like depression. You know, I was like a lot of energy fields was getting clogged like here in this area because I was going through divorce and separation, and then I did like the Wim Hof type of breathing, and I did it because I was watching. I took a break and watching my girls, and I was feeling really shitty just because of the stuff. And then I watched a YouTube video. I was like, let me try it, and I did it, and it worked really well. I felt almost like immediately calm. And then I took a break, and then maybe like 2 hours later, I went to do the full. Uh, it was like 2 or 3 rounds, and then when that was when it happened. It pretty much like unlocked the pineal gland, and my body just changed like almost instantly at that moment. And I haven't told this story before, but at that moment it just changed. It felt like a pull and like an electric shock through my body. And then from ever since that day, my memory recall, my thinking abilities, my brain capacity, my healing capacity, it's just like changed. But the difference, like what I'm saying, like getting back is like I unlocked the pineal gland. He unlocked the pineal gland, right? It's what we call the spiritual hormone. So when he speaks, it sounds really weird, esoteric. But like when I unlocked it and I started like listening to stuff, it's like I think if I hadn't unlocked it, it probably would have sounded really weird and like stupid too. But it makes fucking sense when you you can meditate and like kind of contemplate the universe.
Uh,
Yeah,
I
it's out
100%
of there.
feel.
It's out
I
of there.
I I experience it often. I'd say.
You have?
Yeah, I think. Well, going back, my original one number one. So I've always been a really good dreamer. I have pretty vivid dreams.
Yeah. Lucid,
I
vivid.
remember a lot of them. Yeah, this one, the craziest one I'll have, and I'll start here, is like a few years ago. Like my kids are pretty close in age, and so when they were both very very young, it was a period of not much sleep and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
fatigue and a lot of just life was probably really hard then. But then and also at the time I used to fish very very hard, and so I was doing all that. I was running on
But fishing
zero.
hard.
Yeah, I used to, when I couldn't fish during the day or whatever. I'd fish like all night. I'd go out and I'd
Oh,
get 2 hours of sleep
man,
like
that type of fishing, that's
night.
hard.
Yeah, and then and this is like through the winter and everything. But
Damn.
um, I remember one particular night I was super tired. Went to sleep, and in my dream I woke up
Right.
and I was like, "Why the hell am I on an airplane?" And I was on this airplane the airplane was going down.
Yeah.
All the oxygen masks are popped down. Everyone's looking around screaming, right? And I'm like thinking to myself, why? How did I get on this plane? Why am I here? Like I was having very conscious thoughts in this dream.
Yeah.
And the pilot comes over the radio, and I hear them over all the screaming. He's like, we're gonna crash," and I knew we were gonna crash into like the ocean
Uh-huh.
or something. And then all of a sudden, like, so all the noise just completely went silent. It was the quietest I've ever heard anything, like complete void of sound. And a moment later, I kind of emerge, and there's this bar, and it kind of floating in clouds, and there's all these people sitting around it, and we just all knew we had just died. And
Yeah.
so in this dream, like I said, I'm a good dreamer, but I've never died in my dream, and I've never had a dream so vivid like that, where the sound and the feelings were all there. And so we all felt like we all knew we had died. Nobody was saying anything. We were around this like wood bar, kind of in a floating in a cloud. I don't know what it was, but what I do know is we were all waiting to ascend somewhere else, like the gates of heaven, whatever it might be, right? Um, and I think at that point, this was connected to the Billy Carson thing, because I really think at that point, I got my mind got transported to somebody else's life,
Oh,
and
for
I
I
can't help but think about it was like the plane crash in Indonesia or something. Because in my dream, I was like, why am I flying over Asia? I should be at home with my family. And
you mean
so
like the collective consciousness?
I I think I know what you're getting at, but explain a little bit more.
Well, I mean, I think you kind of explained and talk about like you
A
shifted from.
transport, exactly. Yeah, I and I've never had a dream ever since that was that vivid or that powerful. And gosh, what was I gonna get at on there? I really feel like I just got shifted and to someone else's life at that point, and it's like haunted me ever since. And it's
You trying
made
to
me
figure it
think.
out.
Yeah, it's ever since that point, it's made me question like what's beyond this life.
Yeah.
But it also makes me feel like you can transport into other
Wow.
brains or dimensions or whatever, because you know the other background is I've done my fair share of like psychedelic things,
Yeah.
and I've been more or less artificially seen higher consciousness, or been in states of higher consciousness.
Do
But
you
go
like it?
bring
Like I don't know if like I like it because like I get to do cool
bro,
shit.
this is
But
where I bring it back, is the fact that like when you meditate, or when I put like if I do yoga and I have a really good yoga session, I'm laying there in shavasana, I have these little mini teleportations.
yeah,
Like my mind goes somewhere else, and then
do
when
you
I
like
come
it
out of
though?
it, I come back.
Do you like it? Like I'm like oh, it's
I
cool.
love it. I
All
love
right.
it. It's a the journey. They call it a trip, right? When you
Yeah.
mushrooms or whatever. If you have enough to like
I've
be
never done
self.
any mushrooms. I mean, like I do some meditation, like breathing and smoke some weed and stuff, but and to get me in that altered state of like consciousness.
Yeah,
But I could get into it pretty good. Like I do it the and like it's something that I mean that helps with like all the creativity and stuff.
I think it does. It unlocks. I think it all has to do with it, because it unlocks this ability to have a totally higher consciousness, or a totally different point of view.
Yeah.
And to me, all those experiences, whether I like am laying on a yoga mat after a really good session and I zone
You
out
feel
in
it.
meditation, or if I'm back in college and I just ate some mushrooms, or when I had that dream, it's all this other dimensional shit that I feel like is there. So I don't know if anybody that listens to this has.
I mean what you just shared was like what like I think I was watching Billy Carson. He was talking about his alien encounter, and he said I mean you could tell it was very traumatic for him and stuff. Like he starts crying, like sweating and stuff. But he said when you have that spiritual like hey tap hey there's something out there that's besides just this regular physical realm. You start searching. Like you start like I so I'm 38. I was telling you earlier around 30 is when that's when I started giving up drinking and started pursuing bodybuilding, started reading more books and started like journaling. And I was like that I didn't think it was a spiritual journey, but I thought I just wanted to like move on with my life from like drinking and hanging out. Like I was getting a family. I wanted to like do something meaningful, but I gave up drinking. That's a big thing. Like I don't think you can get this spiritual energy with drinking because it really like even now having like two drinks could keep my vibrations really low. Which like in spirituality is like you got to keep it high so you get the energy and stuff. But that's when I started like getting more. I started getting into a flow state. Um, Bruce Lee, he talks about the flow state a lot, about just being where your consciousness is just clear, right? It's not blocked with stress or like anxiety or fear. It's just, as I would say it, it's just empty. That's when I experienced it in like when I was like in my early 30s, but I was just crushing it. I was working, had I was just got married. We were having great relationships, making a lot of money. I think I had like three jobs. I was bodybuilding. I was fucking crushing it. And I was like, dude, I just got to keep going, right? And I kept going, kept going. I was in the flow state for like 4 years, and then a lot of fucked up shit happened, like with my work, and then the pandemic. That screwed up my brain, and I was out of flow state for like 3 to 4 years. But ever since when that stuff started like deteriorating, that's why I was so diligent on my therapy. That's why I went to therapy. That's why I went to the NLP coach, the coaching and stuff. Even still now, I'm very like uh, strict on like my. I call it. I mean, a practice therapy. I'm still very strict on it because it. I never ever want to lose it.
Yeah,
Like
it
lost
anchors
it,
you.
and I just felt so like this is not me. Like it's not me.
I feel like in there's always going to be a wrench thrown in the gears in life. You just never know where it's going to come from, right? And you just kind of,
Yeah.
how do you prepare yourself, or how do you find resilience when shit goes down? And so maybe that's your anchor for maintaining, all your strong rigor of everything, right? And your balance. For me, it's always like physical work of like exercise and stuff has always been a good ground for me as well.
Yeah.
Just in the last few years, I
I
talked a
was.
little bit about
I think
yoga.
you were telling me a little bit that before the podcast, you're kind of struggling like with like energy levels throughout the day. Um, you're 40 years old.
Yeah.
You look good for 40 though.
Thanks,
I
bro.
got
You
some
look
wrinkles now.
38. Bro,
People crying too
they
much.
say Asian don't raisin, but I feel like
Yeah.
I get it.
I
Um,
think the best thing people could do to not age is drink a lot of water. Drink a lot of water. Like that is one of the most important things. Is drink a lot more water
I think
than you
it's
need.
sleep. I'm
Yeah,
going with
sleep.
sleep. It's all.
Yeah.
It's not just one thing, right? It's always a multitude of things. But
But if you were to pick one, what would you pick? Sleep.
sleep.
Yeah, I take
I
it.
mean, you can't have one without the other. But for me, I know my biggest deficiency is probably sleep, and I'll average somewhere maybe 7 hours. Right, is probably 7 and 7.5 is my average. But that's because I'm guilty of staying online too late or staying on my phone too late,
Doom
and
scrolling.
yeah, that or just it's like my kids just went to bed, and the magic 2 or 3 hours after they go to bed is like I don't, I can do my own thing, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like,
So
so
you were talking about your energy dip, or how does it go? Is it like you're energized in the morning and then it dips
I,
in?
yeah, so I've told you before, like my probably main activity for exercise these days is cycling, right? And so I cycle, I lift, I do yoga, but I have probably like somewhere like 3 to 6 weeks of really high productivity,
Hmm.
great performance. I feel good physically, and then it kind of goes in a lull, and that occurs for like 1 or 2 weeks where my body is just like it needs that reset. And I've just noticed the pattern in the last like 6 months or whatever.
Yeah, I think there's a few things when it comes to like recovery, the deficit that you might have. the sleep deficit. You know, I think you say what how many hours you sleep in, like 5 7 hours.
No, I'm pretty solid for
Seven,
generally 7 to 7.5, but
seven, 7.
on some days when I like if I go for an early bike ride to
Yeah,
meet other people's schedules, it might be like 5.5 or 5
yeah. So
or
sleep,
poor
sleep,
quality sleep.
sleep is like one thing. It's like it could be like 7, 7, 7, 7, but maybe your body actually needed 8, 8, 8, 8, and then it's like that extra like week is
It's
like,
learned to
really,
function,
yeah.
right? It's just
I've
like if
been
you don't
there.
drink enough water. It's
Yeah,
great that you're at 100 ounces a day, but
that
you'd
could
be
be
a lot
it.
better at
But it's
140.
like you just have to like figure it out because I did that. Like I was working like 3 weeks straight, and I was like, and then I was like, oh, I'm just gonna keep being productive. But my body was like, nah, bro, you gotta fucking chill. Like, but then I've been working on just actually just being okay with that because it's like, um, now it's like we have like jobs that it's not like we're not doing like mindless tasks or anything. It's a lot of a lot of thinking and stuff. And I didn't realize how much thinking taxes your body as well too, even with just physical stuff, like learning like to write and just sit down for like focus for like a couple hours. That's really draining. And like I didn't realize that until I started doing some like really really deep work. I was like
Yeah.
actually like super exhausted. And then I was like, there's some days that I didn't go to the gym, but I go to the gym too. But sleep is high priority and stuff. So like adjusting that, but also being okay, like yoga nidra naps. I do yoga nidra naps. You work from home. Um, taking like little breaks, like when like for me, if I'm not feeling productive, not feeling great, I'll take a break and lay my foot down and just think about nothing, or just kind of think about nothing.
Yeah,
Think about nothing.
you're exactly right. The mind fatigue and brain fatigue will permeate through the physical too. Right?
Yeah,
Even if you've been sitting down all day, if you've been in intense like work mode or whatever, nothing wants to work when you come out of that.
and I mean everybody's different too. Everybody works at different. Whenever they're most productive. Like I'm productive as soon as I wake up, so I try to be as productive as I can. By the time the afternoon, I'm not productive and stuff. So,
Yeah.
uh, and just being mindful and just kind of planning ahead. But also too, I think one thing that's starting to happen, folks that are getting older, is testosterone levels start to go down.
Yep.
That's one thing. You eat fairly healthy, and most in general, if you have a fairly good diet, you're good. But the and I know nobody likes lifting weights. I think I'm the only one that likes lifting weights. When I have, I'm like, yo, lift some weights, lift some weights, lift some weights, because lifting weights builds like the most testosterone. Like, you know how like I'm posting on my Instagram, don't skip leg day, don't skip leg day. There's a
Yep.
lot of studies and about muscles and like longevity, and I've always preached like when you do squats and when you do train your legs, and then you think you got the testosterone when you train your legs and your biking and stuff, but adding a little bit more weight training, like heavy weight training and stuff. I know it's hard, but that'll give you the opportunity to sleep more, right? Higher quality sleep equals more like hormones produced when you're sleeping. So like when I train legs, and I could tell when my testosterone was high, but by what I do, I'm very bold. I take risk. My muscles like recovery is quicker. There's these certain things that you could kind of like gauge when your testosterone level is high. You take a little bit more risk. You tend to do like certain things when it's high, and you want to keep that high because the testosterone is the male hormone. Of course, like people are starting to go like TRT and stuff. I don't know much about TRT, but I like doing a lot of stuff without having to go to like to
Yeah,
get.
I don't think I'm ever gonna do unless there's some major health event. I don't see myself
Yeah, but I
subscribing.
think the way like I coach and teach and stuff, it's like if you train fairly, if you eat fairly healthy, right, it's fairly active, you get good sleep, you lift some weights. If you lift weights, great. That's gonna give you a lot of natural testosterone. Like I'm 38 and I'm going a lot harder. Well, this is the hardest I go pretty hard.
You know what's
I
crazy
need
though
I need
is
testosterone. Like if I didn't have testosterone, I wouldn't be able to like put myself out there. I wouldn't be able to do the kind of stuff that I did.
are at 38. Are you finding that when now that you are you seeing all the results that you would have seen when you were 30 or 25?
I'm seeing more gains now.
Yeah, 38. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm because that's what I've been trying to prove to people is like I don't think we reached our genetic potential. People in like the bodybuilding world, they're always talking about, oh, I got to get on gear because I've reached my genetic potential. I'm like, no, I don't think you reached your genetic potential. I've been training since um, ninth grade. I think at 14. I'm 38 now. So I've been training long, right? Consistently, not like, but like making like incrementally like gains and stuff. But
Yeah.
so I've always kept the testosterone level. Like, if you ever see any of my pictures, like I've always had muscle. I've always had muscle because I always lifted fairly heavy and everything. But that's also like muscles are like carriers of like your energy and stuff. Like if you have carbohydrates or you have like fuel, like that's where it stores. So it's useful. And then just different ways to like manipulate like the muscle or like your nutrition to like how you want to look. So for me, I'd rather have more muscle than less muscle. So that's just like my
See,
personal philosophy.
yeah, yeah, and everybody's different because I end up lifting 3 or 4 times a week, except my philosophy is I don't want to bulk to the point where
Yeah,
like I don't I trust me, I'm very vain as you know, if you gosh, I can't believe I just said that. But yeah, I like to maintain good physique. And to me, mine is like not carrying too much weight, right? I like to
yeah,
be mobile. And I'm not saying you can't be mobile with a lot of muscles, but where I want to keep up with my friends that are cycling, that are fast,
yeah,
that's, it kind of works out that way to stay on the leaner side.
yeah. I think whatever body composition that you want, but I think weight training should be involved in any sport, right?
I,
Um,
I
and
agree. Where's this book at? Give me 1 second. I'm going to find it. I'm not going off. I'll find it, but it's Dr. Peter Attia's
outlive.
recent book, Outlive. Yeah,
I think I read. I think I read it. His philosophy on like fitness is very similar to mine. I think
yeah.
when I read it, I was
Same.
like, I don't think I heard anything new.
No,
Because I've read other books like health books. I've been reading like health books for a long time, but I think when I read his, I was like, maybe it was just my personal philosophy. It just sounded almost like exactly what I was like. I already knew, but yeah, I
yeah,
think his was more like proactive, like just take care of it now so you don't deteriorate when you get older. That's
yeah,
it. I've been teaching my dad. I've been teaching like
yeah. That's my thing. Like it goes back to like meeting people and having your tribe of people. Like I when I meet new people, I usually ask them, "So what do you do?" Right? And sometimes people take that as professionally, and I really mean it by what do you do for fun,
yeah,
and what are your passions and hobbies? And I'm in the philosophy is if you have that hobby or passion today, like if you want to do it when you're 80, then you better keep doing it, right? Or you better start doing it. And that I think that's
that's a
the
good
theme of
question.
the book.
That's a good question to ask. Like I asked myself that. I was like, if tomorrow was my last day, what would I do? I would be like, I'd be doing the exact same shit.
What's that? Pump and iron?
Yeah, waking up, lifting weights, doing some work, a little bit of work, not a lot of work, just a little bit of work. Catch up with my family
Huh.
and have some good food and read a book, call it a day. It's not like I'll be like I need to go anywhere. Like I don't really need to go anywhere. But I think what for me is like I think if you have like if you think about what your last day is gonna be, is like you should be doing it. You should be doing what you know, I think you're intend to do for the rest of your life. Now, it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be now, but like at least like think about it and stuff.
Yeah, that's tough to think about what you would do on your last day. I don't know if I could answer that question, but
Might
I think
change.
and
No,
what's
I
that?
mean this thing it might change. It's definitely gonna change. Like if I'm 80, it's gonna change. But right now. today I'm like, I need to do what I need to do. Like if I feel like if tomorrow is my last day, right? I don't know. For me, that's how I live. It's like I think where after I've gone through all my stuff and had this spiritual awakening, I'm like, just do it now.
YOLO.
Yo,
It
we do
it's
only
that.
live, but
I
we do have a collective consciousness.
I'm thinking out of that book, what I really took away and what I take away from his podcast is, I guess when you're never going to know when you're going to croak, right? But you can manage to where you think your marginal decade's going to be. So those last 10 years of your life, if you still want to be pumping iron when you're 80 to 90,
Hell yeah, I do.
continue. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Hell yeah, I do. You
Well, you
like
got to
biking, right?
do it.
That's your thing, cycling.
That's my thing. It makes me feel like I'm a kid,
Yeah,
and it's a great workout too.
yeah. How long have you been doing it? Tell me. 'Cause I saw one of your measurement. I think you had like done like 80 miles on a mountain bike or something like that.
I've
Yeah.
had a few big rides. Yeah, I think that's kind of where I kind of in the camp of like I'm not really the strongest, I'm not really the fastest, but I can suffer for a long time. Right? And not saying all my rides are suffer rides, but if you're going to ride your bike for 5 or 6 hours, there's some suffering
Oh
involved.
yeah, I've
But yeah,
done I've done some biking, but I don't think I've done like that. And you gotta properly like hydrate. I mean, like if you don't hydrate,
that's part of figuring it out, dude. It's like how many carbs are you going to eat? How many? That's the thing. So here's an interesting journey that I've been on. So to answer your question, I've pretty much been cycling pretty much all my life, but I didn't really make it an exercise habit or regimen until like maybe 3 years ago. And I was
it's a
like,
regular
and
thing. Is that
what?
kind of like part of your like therapy or like where you get to like get your thoughts out?
Yeah, I used to be a marathon runner,
Yeah,
and I used to like this higher state of consciousness that I achieve when I'm in my flow within running. So they talk
yeah,
about the runner's high.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and
It's
it's
like the
kind of
flow.
like
It's the
that. Your
flow.
mind is clear, your conscious is clear, you have really really good productive thoughts in that state.
Yeah,
And but I've always liked biking, and biking kind of brought me back to that similar runner's high. um, but to answer your question on that so I've been riding for about seriously for like 3 years, and I've been really liking the progression of it. I'm like, how
yeah,
do I get faster, how do I get better, what are the techniques, and so it kind of brought me to last year. So one of the things, and when you do like a long endurance activity or any activity, when you get a sugar crash, you bonk, right?
yeah, yeah,
When your body runs out of its primary fuel source, sugar levels drop, you
yeah,
feel like death and despair, you feel like you can't continue. And I always hated that because I would find that limit.
yeah,
And as you train, that gets further and further out. You can do it longer and longer, but I still never shook it. So in the last year and a half or so, I started intermittent fasting, and I tried fasting
yeah,
to for a couple of reasons. Number one was like, I wonder if I can minimize the bonk or the crash and teach my body to burn fat for fuel. And so that was number one. And then the other piece of it, like you talk about when you wake up, you're productive first thing in the morning. Well, I'm not as productive as I used to be in the morning, but one thing I did notice is I'm never hungry.
yeah,
But sometimes I would just force myself to eat because it was a norm.
yeah,
And I found that like when I'm in my fast and I'm, 16, 20 hours into my fast for the day, I have the highest level of consciousness and mental acuity than
yeah.
than I do all day. Like when my body is
Sure.
not processing, busy processing like whatever food, um, all of it is in my brain. And that's where those like first few hours of my workday are usually my most productive, or when I do my best thinking, where there's the least amount of noise. And then I start eating, and then I start having like, the coffee kicks in, whatever. So
Yeah. That's why I'm big on like digestion. On like how like intermittent fasting is a good way to give your digestive system like a rest. And I do it fairly often too. It's crazy. Like I'm one of those like incrementally trying to get everything better. right? Incrementally better, just small. Like that's what like discipline is. Like I've
Mhm.
been consistent with it. I think you could see a lot of good results when you're consistent. When you're talking about like 3 years of
Mhm.
doing something, imagine like that level of discipline of paying attention to something, and that expands into like your life and stuff. So that's
Yeah,
like it's cool. I think like that fasting and like meditation is starting to become a lot more popular here.
I agree. And the thing is, like, civilizations and cultures have been doing that type of stuff for
Yeah,
however many years, right? Or some degree of it. Going back to the intermittent fasting piece in my cycling, I think I've successfully, for the most part, proved my or taught my body to not rely completely on like sugar and carbs for energy because ever since I've been, training intermittent fasting and doing a lot of most of my workouts are fasted.
yeah,
Um, I've learned that the energy level doesn't just drop off a cliff. Like it's much more predictable and it is much more like of a slow, steady decline. And so I do feel that I have been able to successfully like teach my body to burn a little more fat instead of relying
yeah.
on sugar.
Fat is a good source of fuel. Like if you're out, say you had a long bike ride or something, to give you a little bit. Fat is also a fuel source for
Yep.
brain, and it burns. It burn like if you had carbs like the night before you ate a whole bunch of carbs, it'll store in your muscles and stuff. So that gets stored in. But if you're intermittent fasting and then you start eating some fats like eggs or avocado, almond butter, peanut butter, that's a good source of fuel that gets eaten up or used in the beginning. So you could tap into that source, and once that source runs out a little bit, it'll start tapping into like the muscles and stuff, and then that's when you start to bulk it. You start to deplete that, and then that's when you if you have any like dues or whatever and stuff. But that's
Yeah.
the nutrition.
You know what? If anybody of your people listen that do the same similar thing, I'd be interested in hearing their experiences if it's been similar. Now, what I'm not convinced on or where I'm not sure of, like I do a lot of my lifting while I'm fasted. And
Uh-huh.
oftentimes I don't immediately go and eat. So
I don't,
I'm
I don't,
wondering if
I
it
don't
has
think
more.
that's completely right either. Like the amount of protein that you need and the timing, it just depends. Like I don't know. I haven't been eating it. I haven't been eating 3 or 4 meals, and I'm still making gains. And it's all how I guess your body's conditioned. Like protein, they want protein and to eat as much as possible. Protein, enough protein. Sometimes if you eat too much, your body can't digest it all. I like the bodybuilder's prescription or health and fitness. It's like 1 gram of protein. That means I would have to eat about 170 grams of protein, which is a lot of fucking turkey, and I can't eat that much. I just can't.
Hard. I know.
It's
Every time
hard.
I've tried, what didn't ever work out for me was I never got to a point where macro diets worked out for me.
Yeah,
Like maybe I could have, steeped or acclimated myself a little more to relying less on carbs. But the one time I tried it, I got great results in like shredding up, I found it really hard to eat the amount of grams of protein, like to keep up with that. Whatever, 165 grams of protein or whatever.
yeah. I think the philosophy is like my brother, like my whole family. It's like I don't want to rely on an application. I don't want to use a scale every time I go somewhere. So learning how to
Yeah.
eat healthy intuitively, like I teach people to use their hands as portions and stuff. So
Mhm.
it's that's more important, right? In general, just having a good lifestyle where like you're not like if you ever see me, like I'm never like hungry or complaining about like food or anything. Like I eat enough. I know what to eat and stuff. I think there's a big misconception that like dieting or like eating healthy is not. It's hard, and if you do it right, if you know use the right knowledge and do the right research or have coached by like the right people and stuff, they'll teach you how to eat properly without feeling like it's
Right.
you're like restricted or anything.
Yeah, yeah. Going back a few minutes to what you were talking about on making gains and just continuing to improve, I think a good philosophy for everyone to live by is like, don't let perfection get in the way of progress.
Yeah,
And so you just got to keep making those small incremental gains. And even like right now, I'll be honest, this week is, I'm in one of those lull weeks. I've had 3 or 4 really um, strong weeks.
yeah,
I track all my exercise, probably like 12 to 14 hours of exercise a week. And this week, I don't have the motivation.
yeah,
But and it's kind of I'm coming to terms that maybe it's kind of okay to back off from there. But this morning I still did a lift, not to the same intensity that I would have done 2 weeks ago or whatever. But I just forced myself to do it, knowing that by just doing it, I'm making a step forward.
yeah. And all that training and everything, you say you super dad, right? Is that what your claim to fame is?
It's not a claim. It's my own expectation of myself.
Yeah,
And my wife and I are on the same page. We're pretty. We try to be really present with our kids. There's times where there's no electronics. It's just that time, but I enjoy my time with the kids, and so want to help them be grow up productive humans and not pass up the time that I have now. So
yeah.
yeah, I try to be a good dad.
It's a great way, like a healthy lifestyle. I think kids. There's this word that I heard is a fancy word. It's called epigenetics. It's like how your cells actually influence your grandkids because you're in such close proximity to your kids, and then your grandkids are pretty much going to receive the same like cells and stuff. So like how you eat, how you operate in your day, because sometimes I get all sometimes I'm like upset because like they don't eat the healthiest. They eat like
Oh,
shit.
bro, tell me about it. You know, I'm waiting for when they like get to the point where they do have a really good diet, but I'm like, you just had chicken nuggets for
You
the
know what I'm
fourth day
saying?
in
You're
a
trying to
row.
be healthy. You're trying to be like I'm trying to be like this health influencer. I'm like feeding them like chicken nuggets and French fries.
Yeah,
But it's like
the minimum is they're eating, right?
yeah,
That obviously we want them to be like, all right, you need like a fistful of broccoli, whatever, and then you need to eat just baked chicken or whatever it is. But man, cinnamon toast crunch. Not that we feed our kids that, but I'm just using that as an example. Cheez-Its taste really good,
yeah.
or goldfish tastes really good.
But that the idea is that what you do is more important because
Yeah,
they'll end up seeing that and like subliminally that's what they see as like kids and stuff that mom and dad are fairly healthy. They
I
treat their
like I like that term. I have to look that one up because we're kind of in the camp. It's important for our kids to see that we work out
yeah.
and
I
that
think
like,
if you
hey,
really summarize it, it's really just lead by example, right? Just be the healthy. Like if you like, I don't, if you want your kids to be social, like I hear people be like, "Oh, my kids are weird. They just don't do anything." I was like, "Do you do anything? Are you
well,
social? Are
sometimes
you
they,
exercising? Are you
yeah,
going to the gym? Are you regularly doing activities?" It's like there is a big something that you had to like question first. Like the parent leads by example. It's like if you want your kids to do extra activities, you want them to be social and not be weird. Like you have to like do do it and lead.
that's true.
Yeah,
That's
man.
true. My kids still might be weird because I definitely have my old man quirks. In some eyes, I guess they might feel weird. So some of that is going to rub off on them inevitably. But
Right,
hopefully the good stuff sticks, the working out, whatever,
right.
eating healthy, healthy life.
Yeah, man. No worries, no worries. I'm
Yeah.
sure they're great kids, and you're doing a great job as a parent. But yeah, our podcast is coming to an end. Do you want to say anything to your haters? I'm
Hey,
just
but,
kidding.
that,
Well,
that's a good. I'm pretty content with things in life. So if there's haters, whatever, that's another reason I don't put myself out there. Also, but
I
put
got
myself
the
out
haters.
there.
I
But
got the haters,
yeah,
man.
I'm sure you got haters if you're doing something that puts yourself out there. People are gonna. I think it's like human nature,
Yeah,
but it means you're doing something that you're probably doing something right.
we're doing something. We're doing
Yeah,
something, Wayne. But yeah, man, I appreciate your support, my brother. Best of luck with everything and blessings. I'll be around the internet if you need me or anything, brother.
for sure. I think there's a few things that worth putting in the show notes on this conversation, just because there was
Yeah,
a
tell us
really
about
few
it.
topics that I'd be interested in chatting with people about. And I'm just going to go over the list really quick so we have them. You can cut this out if you want, or put this in your B or B roll or whatever. Wim Hof.
Wim
That's
Hof.
something I want to look into that I've always heard about. Like I do the cold shower thing, I do ice bath thing occasionally. Billy Carson, because that shit is interesting. The Peter Attia stuff, if people don't know, epigenetics, pineal gland, those are the things that kind of resonated. Of those are areas that everyone should look into for
Yeah,
enriching their lives a little bit.
yeah, and I'll talk a little bit more about it on like the podcast and stuff and what I've discovered. But I think all the stuff that like my philosophy and what I say and stuff, it's not about me. You can use me as like inspiration or anything, but it's like when you start searching your own truth, like what you just listed off, Peter Tia, Billy Carson, the pineal gland. Those are things just they're ideas. If you get them, you get them.
Yeah. Right.
Uh, if it works, it works. But I think being honest and like doing your own independent thinking and own research, it's more rewarding than just sitting back and just accepting things. For me, it's like that's why I like to see people individualize, do things, and talk about things that are specific and special to them. It doesn't inspire me if somebody tells me about the Netflix movie they watch or like Netflix series they watch. It's like everybody can fucking do that. Like, everybody can fucking do that. Like my 5-year-old could watch Netflix for 2 seasons. It's like not really interested in that, but that's
I
me
feel
shit
that. I feel
talking.
that. All right,
Yeah.
bro. It's been real.
Okay. All right, man. It's been real. I will talk to you later.
All right,
Thank
man.
you
Be
guys
well.
for joining the Flow In Flow Out podcast with my man Wade too. All right, my brother.
Later.